What's going on, everybody? MrAeroHD here. We're back with something kind of different. So normally, you know, this is a Zenki. Obviously, you guys have seen this before. You've seen this car before. Normally in these, I will show you a build and we will go and we will either drive it online or we will do some offline racing or drifting or whatever. I ended up making this last night just out of boredom and because I thought it'd be a good idea. But here's what I did with this car, and I want you guys, we're gonna go through the video and see what happens. Obviously, if I do this video again, it will be live, not going after the build after it's done. I'll show you what I've done. We're gonna go online, see what happens. And if you guys like this series, I'll continue it. Not super often, but it will continue. So what I've done to the Zenki, if I go to upgrades, I have made a low horsepower missile car build. So like I normally do, I go right to left in upgrades. So upgrades, all I have on is a front. You can see right now it's 296 horsepower, B class, 2,600 pounds. I have the border front bumper and then the K series, I think, wing, and the Sylvia K's wing. I have stock ass tires on here. It wanted me to put streets, but I was like, nah, fam. So we got stock ass tires. I got two 25s in the back, and I believe two 05s in the front. Yep. And then 5 Ziegen. I don't know how to say that. I've never known how to pronounce this name. But 5 Ziegen GN plus wheels on here, just because they look pretty. They look like a wheel. I didn't want anything big. So my goal with this build was to use as little race bars as possible. I used the race clutch just so we can shift faster. Not for any particular reason, but I have a race clutch on here. Sport transmission, because I just adjusted final drive, stock drive line, because you know that we didn't need that. Race diff, so we can adjust the diff settings. Stock brakes, because you don't need race brakes. You don't need any brakes. Race springs and dampers. Stock roll bars. Race roll cage, because you know you would have a roll cage in a race car anyway. And then sport weight, which is basically just removing all the crap out of the car that you don't really need. As for engine, I just said whatever. I'm going to put whatever parts on it. Race or not race, doesn't matter. So I put race cams just so we can get some more, get it to rev higher, just for the memes. And then sport exhaust. And I believe that was the only, I think that was the only upgrades I made to this car. So we'll look over the tune really quick. 33 pounds in the front, 41 pounds in the rear. Obviously, that's a lot of air pressure. I'm actually going to take this down a little bit. It's a lot of air pressure, I know that, but this car has not a whole lot of horsepower. So basically, you want the tire to be like as hard as possible, I guess, is the way I'm explaining it at 2 o'clock in the morning. 3 in the morning, yeah. Just so there's like less road resistance, and it slides easier. I have really, really high gears. I got a 450 in here. You use whatever gear you would normally use in a real car, even though you're going like at half the speed. Camber. Normally I use a little bit of positive camber in the rear just to like because when you get on power, it straightens the wheels out. Here I don't want as much contact patch. You don't want any super crazy camber angle, but that's what I went with. And then I just didn't touch the toe in the caster. I figured that this wouldn't be really fucked with from like a grassroots perspective. So I just put a little bit of camber on it and said, you know what? The rest of it's fine. Obviously, we can't adjust anti-roll bars. Springs are a little bit heavier or stiffer than what you normally would be. Then I just left I made it a little bit higher. I didn't lower it at all. I believe this is what it comes with stock. But I made them the same height, 6.6 and 6.6, because I didn't want any sort of like weird characteristics with the car. Again, a lot stiffer than normal. I'll guess 7.1, 6.3. Brakes we can't touch, and then a completely locked diff because again we're gonna have a hard time sliding this thing. But in testing last night, it went really well online. We were beating or finishing really well in points. So we're gonna jump online. But before, you might notice something cool on the back bumper here. My freaking logo's in the game now. You can download it just by searching MrAeroHD on vinyl groups. And to do vinyl groups, you go to apply vinyl and just go all the way to the left. Sarah Cake is the one that did it. Sarah, thank you so much. That is This is awesome. I'm going to put this on every goddamn car I have now. Well, yeah, let's jump online, see if we can embarrass some people, or we just embarrass ourselves. All right. So, protocol is a little bit different when you're driving a slow car than when you're driving a fast car. Driving a fast car, you want to get ahead of everybody as quick as possible. Slow car, you kind of got to judge, because you're not going to win. And if you do, you know, it's not going to... Oh, yeah. Goodbye, Legacy. Kind of just have to be aware of who's around you and drive with your head on your shoulders, basically. It's not all that difficult to drive a slow car in the lobby. Just make sure you know who's behind you and who's ahead of you. Yeah, pretty much. So you see I'm looking behind, and I'm going to give him the corner here. And now there's 2 more guys behind me. Here you go, buddy. And then power through here. And then let him go. You don't even have to stop drifting to let people pass. So, which is why I don't understand why people just ride their line and get mad when you run them over when they're going half speed, right? Because it's not... Like, all I have to do is swing the car a little bit wider, open up the inside line, and there you go. You can pass me. But anyway, we're pretty much on our own now, and I can talk to you a little bit more about this car. It has, I feel, just enough power. You know, you can't run sections like you normally would, at least in my opinion. I'm sure the setup is not 100% optimal. I'm not a low-power guru, and they do exist, and I'm sure they do exist. I was just like, hey, I want an S14 that, you know, you can probably find at Ebizu or something, or at a Matsuri. And I was like, well, they're probably not going to have a whole lot of horsepower, and, you know, probably not going to have a bunch of race parts. And I really didn't want to hear a race transmission because of the whine and stuff. So I'm pretty sure it's a diff that makes that noise, but either way, you can't hear it from outside the car. So I was like, all right, cool. That's what I'm going to go with. And I went with the Zenki because, you know, I just like the Zenki for some reason. But we're in 4th. Not by much, but we are in 4th. Another thing when you have a slow car, too, is that everyone's going to do what I do in normal lobbies. I'm just going to take the fuck off and have a huge points advantage on you just because they're like 5 or 6 corners ahead. And obviously, you can't get points for corners you've never been in or haven't been in yet. Another thing about this car, of course, it is low horsepower, so it is all momentum-based. So if someone pulls out in front of you, it's kind of harder to, like, break your drift and then just clutch kick and use your power to, you know, keep drifting. Because you don't really have the power to do that. You kind of have to go into corners really fast, chuck it really hard, and just kind of hope for the best. So if someone pulls out in front of you, or you catch up to someone who somehow is driving slower, you're going to have a bad time. It's really hard to, at least for me, make those kinds of adjustments in a car with only 280-something horsepower. I don't quite remember how much is in here. And I would not advise driving something like this if you're not using clutch. Like, you can. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but you're making life harder on yourself at that point. And with clutch, you know, you can get yourself out. You can get through these long corners, which I'm surprised this car even drives. I just expected it to straighten out, like, right here. As long as you know where to turn, and, like, when your car starts to shallow up, you start turning into the corner, and you kick the shit out of the clutch. For the most part, you're fine. Obviously, I'm not a miracle worker, so that corner is, in particular, pretty long. So near the end of it, the car just had nothing left, and shifting up to 4th, it isn't going to do anything. So I was like, whatever, I'll cut my losses, straighten out. And that's where you lose points, really, in a car like this. Again, this is not made to come out here and win lobbies. This is not the reason why I made this car. I made this car for a little bit of fun. I made this car to, you know, goof around with my friends with offline. Or not offline, but not on public multiplayer, but in like private matches. And I made this car to maybe, hopefully, goof on some people who think that you need 900 horsepower to do well. I'm sure that if this car had 900 horsepower, I would be at the top of the lobby with, you know, no difficulty. But look at me. I'm here. I'm less than 300 horsepower, and I'm in a comfortable top 3. I would say at this point. So this guy wants to go through. Again, just swing wide. It's so easy. It's so easy. And I didn't lose too much time. I didn't lose lots of points. I just held the e-brake a little bit longer than I normally would. Swung a little bit wide. And there you go, Mr. S13. You're on to enjoy the lobby however you want. Another thing that will happen is people will try to tandem with you. Which, you know, it happens. I'm guilty. But because you're in B class, they think that they need to charge in every corner at full speed when you are going half the speed that they can achieve. And they'll hit you a lot. So be ready for that. What I normally do is I'm like, hey man, I'm in a B class car. If you want to tandem, that's cool. Just like try not to run into me every 10 seconds. As long as you're kind of cool about it in a message. I found that most people have been pretty chill. I'm like, hey, I'm in B class. Like, are you sure you want to tandem with me? Like, I feel like I'm holding you up. And they're like, ah, whatever, I'm just bored. And you're like, all right, cool. Most of the time, they're okay. It's more when they find you on track and they don't know that you're driving a B-class car. They're like, oh, I'm just going to tandem with this Zenki. He's doing oh my god, he's going at 7 miles an hour. That's mostly when we get killed. But, honestly, if you've never done one of this before, if you've never done one of these before, this is so fun. This car is the best one I've built so far. I built this in a 240. 240 has similar horsepower, but it's like in C class instead of B class for some reason. I don't know. Same tire widths and everything, but whatever. This is so fun, man. It's such a nice challenge. Because like I said, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like if I jumped into a regular S14 right now, I can go on and at least compete for the win. If not, you know, the fact that I'm only 20,000 points away, I know I can get just under or just over 70,000 in this track, or 70,000, 50,000. Whoa, boy, 50,000 in this track. So, and again, not a points drifter, tandem drifter, but like I know I can get about 50 grand on this track in my 700 horsepower S14. So I could either be fighting for the win. There'd be no competition. And you know, if you're up there driving alone, it's kind of boring anyway. So this is just more fun to drive. I can imagine myself just picking a track like the Nürburgring or Dubai Mountain and just putting on some music that I like and hot lapping. It's just a really fun practice car. It's a really fun car to just drive when you have like no one really to drive. Oh, that's the one drawback. Because of the high, super high tire pressure in the rear, there's obviously not a whole lot of rear grip. So if you over-rotate, you're in for a bad time. You can't really just hope that your rear tires are going to pull you out. And if you go any wider in the rear tire size, you're not going to be able to drift as well. So really just got to be ready for that rear end and feel like it's on ice sometimes. We got 41,000. So we had the second best lap, and we came second. You know, I'm okay with that. This is fine. But yeah, I'm obviously in the other builds, I'm going to be building the car live. I'm going to be testing it, tuning it, and like much of like our other drift builds. So I'm really interested to see what you guys want to see from that, because I will remake the 240 for sure, and that'll be in our next video. And then I'll just go off of you suggestions, what you want me to see make into missile cars or low horsepower builds. So thank you guys very much for watching. As always, I'm MrAeroHD. Like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more similar-ish drifting content. Follow me on Twitch. That's where I spend most of my time now, but I'm not, you know, I'm still here. But thanks guys for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Have a good night. I mean, peace. I can't change that now. I can't. I gotta. Bye.